Have you ever tried to get someone to change their behavior? Or have you ever thought about adopting a different behavior yourself? Well, if so, this theory is going to be interesting to you. So, within the theory of planned behavior presentation, after viewing this, you'll be able to compare the theory of planned behavior with its predecessor, the theory of reasoned action. You're going to be able to describe the main concepts or variables present within this theory and discuss various applications of the theory. So one way I want to start is with this application. So how many of you are using a green bag, a reusable bag that you take shopping with you? And I can't see you raising your hands, but there might be a few of you watching this who fall into this category. So think about your own attitudes about this behavior compared to someone who doesn't, and maybe you're more in that perspective. What do your peers think or say about this behavior? And how much control do you have over this? Are you one of those people who's like, oh, I left him in the car or I forgot him at home? But do you have control over that? So that's what the theory of planned behavior helps us address, thinking about attitudes, the social norms, and then perceived behavioral control. So the beginnings of this theory are found in the theory of reasoned action, and you can still find people referencing and using the theory of reasoned action today. It's still relevant in certain contexts. So Martin Fishbein and Asik Azin, I know Azin is right in terms of my pronunciation, but in the mid-70s, early 80s, they developed this theory. And what it did was looked at the attitudes, and they wanted to see how attitudes would predict behaviors, how behavioral intentions could be influenced toward objects or situations. And they found that the best indicator of behavior, of actual behavior, would be the intention to perform that behavior. So from these humble beginnings, they conducted experiments and had people testing this theory. And through that process, they realized that maybe they were missing a piece. And that was the concept of perceived behavioral control. And that's also very similar concept to self-efficacy. So I'm going to talk through an example of this, but it really comes down to you might want to do the behavior, your friends might think it's a good idea, but if you don't feel like you have the ability, the behavioral control to perform that behavior, then you're likely not going to. So these two theories are very similar in many contexts, but they are considered two different theories. And because the theory of planned behavior is considered a better predictor because of this additional concept, we're going to focus on that, and it is more widely used today. So this is the seminal article for this theory. And there might be a few around this same time frame, but this seems to be one of the earliest mentions of this theory of planned behavior. So I've included the citation there for your reference. So let's talk about an example of a behavior change that perhaps you want to convince someone or you yourself are working through this process. And we're going to look at it through the lens of both of those theories. So let's say that this example is organ donor campaign. So you are working for an organization and you want to sign more people up to be organ donors. Well, if you approach this through this theory of reasoned action, you're going to try to identify what people's attitudes already are about organ donation. You would include questions about their subjective norms or what do their peers or close family members think about it. And then you would use those two things, their attitudes and subjective norms, to persuade them. So you might say, for people who already have a positive approach and they think their family would support them, you could use that in your messaging. Now, the theory of planned behavior would ask you to still collect those attitudes and subjective norms information, But the difference would be asking people how much they think they could actually control this behavior. Do they know the steps that it takes to become an organ donor? And if they don't think that they can, or that they're not able to work through that process, then they're likely not going to. And so that's where identifying perceived behavioral control or an individual's self-efficacy can really influence their intentions toward a behavior. So the theory of planned behavior says that the intent to perform a behavior is the most important predictor of actual behavior. And I'll show you a very simple model figure that demonstrates this. But it's just saying that if you say, I am going to get up and go to the gym in the morning, hopefully you will, that's the best predictor of doing so. So the model that I'll show you here in just a minute, visually, it demonstrates that intention is influenced by these three main areas: your behavioral belief or your attitudes toward the behavior, your normative beliefs, which are those subjective norms, and then control beliefs, the perceived behavioral control. So simply put, the theory of planned behavior predicts or explains a behavior based upon an individual's factors listed here. So their attitudes, what they think opinions of others are, and their efficacy, their ability to perform the behavior. So the assumption here is that behavior is not random, that we as individuals have free choice, and that we take into a lot of information and consideration when deciding to perform a behavior or not. So if you're a visual learner, I hope that this will help show those primary concepts and how they're related. So here is and we're going to talk through each of these antecedents here in just a moment. These are the things that you would want to measure and identify if you were working on a campaign to change behavior. And you can see that those all come before intention. But then there's also behavior here at the end. And according to the theory, and this has been tested, this is an older figure, but it's been tested since. There are some other things that might influence this, like actual behavioral control. So you may think you can, but you may not actually be able to. So there's some other factors that come into play here. So let's spend the next few minutes just breaking down each of these major areas of the model. So within the theory of planned behavior, this schematic, there are behavioral beliefs, and those influence your attitude toward the behavior. So simply, those are the beliefs of a chosen behavior will produce an expected outcome. And those attitudes can be positive or negative toward that chosen behavior. Let's think about exercising more. You may have positive attitudes or negative attitudes. And this is determined by the behavioral beliefs that link to the behavior. So you may have really been athletic in high school, so you have more positive attitudes, or maybe you didn't enjoy sports, and that might influence your attitudes. The next piece is the normative beliefs. So this is the perceived behavioral expectations of important people in your life. So that could be friends, family, significant others, coworkers, teachers, etc. So this is the idea of what do they think about this behavior? Would they support it, or would they say, no, that's not a good idea? So perceived social pressure is really what subjective norms are trying to identify. And you can imagine that there's other factors that go into this, someone's age. At certain ages, we feel more inclined to social pressure or peer pressure than perhaps as we get older. So those subjective norms can also influence our intentions toward a behavior. The final kind of big area in terms of these concepts that influences intention is control beliefs. And I've already highlighted this a bit, but simply it is the perceived presence of factors that may facilitate or impede performance of a behavior. So maybe control beliefs related to exercise might be your ability to get to the gym or your ability to work out at home. So these perceptions of ability can really influence my intentions to adopt a certain behavior. And this is expected to moderate the effect of intention on behavior. So it's just saying that if I think I can, if I have these self-efficacy beliefs, then I'm probably more likely to perform that behavior. So once we have those factors identified, that leads into intention, which again, according to the theory, is the best predictor of actual behavior. So intention is an indication of your readiness to perform a given behavior. Sometimes in campaign efforts, they might have someone, or fundraising, for example, they might have someone pledge. And so just saying that you're going to pledge a certain amount of money doesn't exactly mean you actually have, but it indicates a very strong intention that you will. And according to this theory, again, it is influenced by the attitudes, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. And then that leads us to the behavior, which is the actual response that you'd want to see. So this is me saying, I will get up in the morning to go to the gym, and this is me actually doing it. So within agriculture, there are certainly challenges and opportunities that this theory presents when we think about identifying these different variables that might influence someone's intentions to adopt. And so I'm not asking for this to be written in a Blackboard post, but I do want you to consider what challenges and opportunities leveraging this theory could have in terms of our agricultural communications efforts.